Good morning, everybody. What a beautiful day it is. Seems like every time I kind of forget how old I'm getting, I very promptly get reminded. I DJ'd a wedding last night, and I thought, I'll probably be 8, 9 o'clock because the actual ceremony was at 4:30. I got home at 12:30 at night, and that alarm came fast. So I will do my best to carry the energy from the drums to here. But bear with me, because I'm feeling it. Today we're continuing the series, Pre-Decide. And so the first week we talked about your trajectory in life, the thousands of decisions that you make each and every day that can change that trajectory. It's not just one big decision. And then last week we talked about temptation, right? Pre-deciding prior to change and prepared today what will affect you in the future. And so as we continue, we're talking about the power of consistency, which is funny that I'm preaching that this week because if there's one thing I'm consistent on, it's being inconsistent. I don't know what it is. That's just it's not my DNA. I'm not someone who can just do the same thing over and over and over. I love a good routine, but sometimes that's got to change every now and again. I don't think I've played a song the same way on the drums twice in a row since I've been playing here, which has been over a decade now. But consistency is very important in our lives. Not only does consistency impact our trajectory, but it is a key quality in spiritual strength. Consistency impacts your ministry itself. It impacts the way people see you. Consistency can impact your physical health, your relationships, financial potential, all of your goals. That is not fueled by what we appear to be. It's not fueled by our background or upbringing. It's fueled by our consistency, what we continuously do each and every day. What's good about this, though, is that although I look at this and I go, oh man, I'm not consistent at all, there's someone in the Bible who said that they're very inconsistent, and this is Paul writing. And I kind of mentioned this last week. And Paul in Romans 7:15 says, I don't really understand myself, for I want to do what is right, but I don't do it. Instead, I do what I hate. I want to do what is right, but I can't. I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but I do it anyway. This is tough because I think a lot of us have good intentions with a lot of things. But somehow, good intentions or not, that's not always the result of what we do. It's not always the outcome of our application or our trying or our forcing of our will. It's about the consistency that we have. And talking about the power of consistency and pre-decision, a lot of that is determined by the quality of our decisions. So when we're faced with blank, I have pre-decided to blank. Right? You can fill in and enter whatever there, but we need to start thinking about what is in that spot. When this happens, how do I respond? What have I pre-decided? If you remember, we did a series on habits not super long ago. One of the things that really stuck out there is successful people do consistently what other people do occasionally. We are made up of what we repeatedly do, not what we do occasionally. What makes us a difference in our lives is our consistency. Consistency matters, and it's something that the world itself can push back against in your own consistency. Today we're going to be looking at Daniel, one of the most consistent people shown in the Bible, with his consistent morality, his rationality, his spirituality, and him being a good leader. Some of the background of Daniel is around 605 BC, about 18 years after Babylon destroyed Jerusalem. that government took in some of the young boys, and they were going through an indoctrination process, right? You're going to have our names now. You're going to eat what we eat. You're going to learn what we learn. We're going to raise you up to be the future leaders here. And there was a guy, King Darius, who noticed that Daniel displayed some unusual special qualities. And one of those was his consistency. So Daniel, above everyone else, was being planned to be set above all of the leaders that they were creating. And so that ruffles some feathers. Usually when you get singled out as being better than other people, the other people in that group don't like that, which is fair. I understand it. I've been on both sides of that. And so a lot of the other leaders started doing what they could to find fault with Daniel. In Daniel 6:4, it says, "But they couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. He was faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy." That always stands out because not only is this people looking at Daniel's life trying to find something wrong, these are other leaders, right? These are people with power and with pull in the community. And I feel like it would not be that difficult with a lot of us, including myself, that if some people wanted to start digging up some dirt, they could find it. Especially if it's people in power that have access to everything, that have access to the people I know, the people I grew up with. You can talk to a lot of people I grew up with, and I don't have a shining track record with them. I'm a very different person now than I was then. But no matter what they did, they could not find a single thing wrong with Daniel, right? There was no, oh, he rubbed me wrong this time, or oh, he's not what he appears to be. Daniel is everything that he said he was. Daniel was consistent. And so what they decide is that they're going to use his consistency against him. They go, okay, we can't find any fault with him, but we can find fault with his God, because that's not king. Right? His God is not the God of our land. Let's use that against him. And so they foolishly go up to the king, or I think it's foolish. It doesn't ever make sense to me. They're like, "King, you are amazing. You are the best that has ever been. Your shoes are amazing. You look amazing." All right, I'm reminded of, I don't know if you guys ever seen Nacho Libre. The main villain is this evil luchador wrestler, and he's got people rubbing him down with oil before his fight, and they're like, "Your muscles are amazing, and your moves are amazing." That's kind of what I view here. And they go, "And you know what? You're so amazing, we should make a law that anybody who worships or praises anything but you for the next 30 days gets thrown into a pit of lions." Which never made sense to me, because what's with the 30-day span? Why would they not just try to pass that as like a law just for the rest of his reign? Never connected with me. But they did. And the king was like, "You know what? I am pretty dope. My muscles are great. I do have good shoes. I do look amazing. Let's do this." So they set that in place, and it says in Daniel chapter 6, verse 10, "But when Daniel learned that the law had been signed, he went home and knelt down as usual in his upstairs room with the windows open toward Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done, giving thanks to God." Daniel is consistent even in the face of adversity. Right? Because it's hard enough to be consistent when life is just being life. This week has been extremely hectic for me. Not just for prepping for this wedding, but there's been a special rises with family stuff, with work. I've been going through new training. There's been so many curveballs leading into this week that this really was an assistance for me. Right? Realizing last week we talked about the temptation is that Satan is going to make attempts to make your life harder. Right? Like that's just a reality. And so it did help me realize a lot of that now of, okay, this stinks. This is rough. But breathe. Right? Have grace under pressure. Everything's going to be okay. This is just a curveball. Curveballs are fine. It's what Daniel did here. Right? This isn't just everyday life. This is at the cost of his life. I don't know how many of you guys have been around lions before. They're not pleasant. I don't even really like cats, let alone giant ones that could maul me in a blink of an eye. Don't tell my wife I said that. She's not here. Because she does have two. I'm not a big fan of them. But even through this, all right, what does Daniel do in response? Does he go, it's 30 days. I'll take a month off. Do I really need to pray every day? Is it that big of a deal? All right, is God going to be the different God in 30 days? No. Does God want me to die by lion? But Daniel does what he does. He is consistent. He knows that no matter what the adversity is, no matter what that curveball in life becomes, he goes back to what he knows. This is a habit he has created. This is something that is consistent in his life, and it has always sought him through. So, of course, they find out about this because they know, because he's consistent, where he's going to be, when he's going to be praying, and they catch him. It doesn't take them very long for them to go, oh, we found someone. And although the king was like, I really wish it wasn't Daniel. He goes, I did make a rule. I guess I'll follow it. So even the favor Daniel had with the king wasn't enough. He still gets thrown with the den of lions. And in this, it describes that an angel shut the mouth of the lion. That's not anything like over the top for a Bible story. But I don't know how many metaphorical lions I've come up against in life that I've been like, yes, God does amazing things, but like that will not stop that. Right? Like this is going to happen whether I want it to or not. It's easy to look at it from an outside perspective, go, that was really cool. But I've still got to face this. God hasn't changed. God doesn't change what he does for his people. So no matter what you can plug and play into that lion in the den that you get thrown up against, put up against, sorry, I didn't mean to say throw up. God is going to be with you. You are not going to be left alone in that. Your consistency is important because a lot of the issue with not being consistent is forgetting. A lot of the issue with forgetting is not remembering that you will be okay, that God can help you in this area. It says in Daniel chapter 6, verse 23, it says, Daniel was lifted from the den. No wound was found on him because he had trusted in God. Daniel didn't learn trust in God when he was in the lion's den. I'll say that again. Daniel didn't learn to trust God in the lion's den. It wasn't when he was faced with a life-threatening situation that he went, you know what, I do trust God. So he's going to come through now. This is a lifelong repetition thing that he knew that no matter what situation he was in, God is going to follow through. I struggle with that a lot. Right? When things are good, God is good. When things are bad, I need to figure something out. Most of us pray occasionally, and Daniel prayed constantly. What do we do occasionally that makes a constant difference? Is there anything that we do that we sometimes do, but no matter whether we do it or sometimes do it, it makes a massive difference in our lives? I personally can't really think of anything that hasn't shaped who I am because once a month I go and do this thing. Or once a week, I'll play 5 minutes on the drums. It doesn't really provide growth. That doesn't gain experience. That doesn't build trust. So how do we grow in our consistency? We're going to start with the why. Why did Daniel pray consistently? It was never an outward show, but an inward devotion. Most of our New Year's resolutions fail because they're built out of desire. Right? What we want to change, we don't have a clear, compelling why. Like, it would be nice to do this, But is it really a driving part of my life right now? It's important to have a why, because if you have a clear view of the end result, it's a lot easier to do it. Right? If you go, I'm $50,000 in debt. Right? If you go, I want to clear that debt this year, it's a lot harder to do that. Just saying, I just want it gone. It'd be nice. But when you start looking at like the freedom you'll have financially, the amount you'll be able to give after that, how much of a change it'll have in your life and how you feel, it starts to become a lot easier to view that. Right? Maybe you go, I've been having a lot of marital issues. I need to fix that just so we don't get a divorce. Right? Like that's a good reason to fix issues. But if you start expanding that into the full view of what marriage is supposed to look like, it makes fixing those hard problems a lot easier. Right? It's hard raising kids. There are some things now where I'm like, I kind of just wish we could be like, don't care about this, do whatever you want. It's not worth the headache. But then you think about, who is this person becoming? What am I teaching them? What example am I showing them? How much better do I want them to be than myself? And suddenly those arguments and fights and that headache is a little bit less, a little more worth it. When you know your why, you will find a way. The second thing we need to do is plan to fail. And I know that sounds very counterintuitive, but planning to fail to some extent is very good. It's very beneficial. I'll take that from you now. I tried. Because we're human beings. We are not perfect. We're not going to do everything perfectly. But we always create this expectations of whenever I start trying to overcome this or change this or do this, we think it's got to be flawless. And not only do we think it's got to be flawless, but me personally, if I trip up somewhere, I go, well, that's just ruined now. Just scrap that whole thing. Forget it. It's very easy to put ourselves at too high of a standard. Because we can do anything, we can do everything, but we have to be prepared to fail. That change, that growth doesn't come from never failing. Because we learn when we fail. We learn, okay, this happened, now I can prepare for it next time. Or I could never have expected this outcome. Right? This opened up a whole new avenue. I kept wanting to say revenue. I'm like, that's not right, Aaron. Opens up a whole new avenue of exploration and learning. It's okay to plan to fail. And in fact, we should. Being consistent isn't the same as being perfect. All right, if you go, okay, I want to be like Daniel, I want to pray 3 times a day, and I don't know, something crazy in your life happens, and you end up having to put out a fire at work, whatever it is, and you miss your midday prayer. That doesn't throw the whole thing off. That's not it. You go, okay, tomorrow I'll get that midday one covered, but I'll do the prayer tonight. Because as long as you're still attempting, you're still being consistent. Attempting is still being consistent. And number 3 is we need to fall in love with the process. Daniel wasn't consistent his entire life so he could be indoctrinated and be a great leader and get promoted in this country he doesn't know or doesn't understand or doesn't even really care for. Daniel is constantly doing what mattered to him. Mistakes a lot of us make is we obsess over our goal for X, Y, Z, and we don't succeed until we hit that goal. If you're always beating yourself up and being hard on how your path is being to finish that goal, you're not going to enjoy it. There will be zero fun and joy in that. But if you are planning to fail, if you are prepared, if you expanding the view on what the outcome of that looks like, if you know the why, then it's a little easier to fall in love with the process itself. Processes are rarely ever fun, especially when they're life-altering, when you're trying to change your trajectory. But when you focus on those, it's a lot easier to fall in love with the process. Success, not success when you achieve a future goal, but success when you honor God daily. You have to pre-decide to be consistent. All right? God will be strong when we are weak. We know that. This is a foundational rule of thumb in Christianity. Right? God is not only like, you're doing good, so I'll have your back. Right? He makes up for our shortcomings. So it's okay to plan to fail. It's okay to stagger in your consistency. That's where God will shine through. We need to make decisions to figure out who God is calling us to be. Because if we're just being better to just be better for no real reason or no real outcome or just for selfish reasons, then what's the point really? Will we fall in love with the process then? Will it actually mean something? I don't think Daniel was consistent in his praying just because, or because he thought it was right. It's because it was shaping him into who God wanted him to be. It was something that was always prevalent in his life. Consistency is important. It's one of the most important spiritual qualities. We must have consistency. We have to. I know I'm saying consistency a lot, but I really want to drive it home. Because after going through this and all the habit stuff was popping back up, I went, oh man, I really forgot a lot about the habit stuff. It's an important quality to have. Not just to better yourself, but it's to better your ministry. Because if I come up here every couple of weeks and I'm not consistent with how I act, how I represent myself, how I live, how I represent God, you guys aren't going to care. I wouldn't care. Be like, yeah, you're saying this, but throughout the week, I saw you doing this. That's not consistent. I can't believe you. And no matter what you think your ministry is, or you might think, I don't have a ministry. You do. Everyone does. And it can change a lot. I've not had one set ministry or one set thing that I thought I was supposed to do for my entire life. And so it's important to have that consistency in your life, because when your goals change, when your life changes, when your ministry changes, what are you going to fall back on? What's going to be your initial reaction to things? So when we pre-decide, we're looking at trajectories, when we're pre-planning for temptations, when we're deciding to be consistent, we have to make those decisions today, now, before the issues come, before we're in the lion's den, before we're really put up to the test. Because I don't know about you guys, but I do not instantly go, I know my foundation all the time when things get really bad. Usually I go, oh, what am I going to do? How do I get out of this? How do I fix this? There's rarely calmness and stillness and consistency. So if you guys are having any issues with that, maybe you think you've been trying to be consistent for years and it's just never fully set in. You can't get past that final bit to make it an actual habit of your life. Or maybe you're thinking, that sounds like something I need real bad. I'd love to talk to you about it because it's something that I'm working on. So there's no, I can't believe I haven't figured this out yet. Come on, man. It took me 4 days to be consistent for my entire life. There's none of that. There's no judgment. We are a family. It's important to know that you have people that have your back. You have people that are doing the same thing that you guys are. My walk has been for the majority of my life, and there's still things I'm figuring out and learning and having to practice every single day. We are here for you. Aaron is here for you. I'm here for you. Let's figure it out. I don't like the going through the motions and just I show up to church just because I feel like I'm supposed to, or I feel like it covers up my inconsistencies over the past week. Let's have actual change. Let's have actual generational habits be broken and start new ones that we can be consistent with that can change so much. Not just this church, not just our families, but the community. And you would be surprised how much can change from just a handful of people out of a tiny community like this. I've seen it. It's amazing and it's beautiful. And I want us all to be a part of that. So if that's something you're interested in, talk to me, talk to Aaron, talk to the elders. We're all here for you. So let's work on being consistent. Let's pray. Father God, I thank you for this opportunity. The opportunities that you present every single day for us to get better and better at being consistent. Because we require those every single day. Father, no matter how many times we misstep, make a mistake, forget who you are in times of pressure, that you are still always there. There is no limitation to your love. There is no limitation to your forgiveness. Father, in a world of inconsistencies, you are the most consistent. You are the one who never changes. You are the one who never leaves us. You are the one who never gives up on us. I pray that today and throughout this week, we would really ponder that, where we need consistency in our lives, where we need to be better, where we need to grow in, what habits we need to start and create to pre-decide to be better in the future, to change our trajectory to fall more in line with what your plan is. That we pre-decide to be prepared for the temptations that are going to break our consistencies and break our habits or throw us off or knock us off of that trajectory, Father, that we would decide now to handle those, to work to be better. Not just for ourselves, Father, but for you, for your growth and the kingdom. So when people look at us, they see a reflection of you. I thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much for this beautiful day. And I just thank you again for never giving up on us. And it's in your name I pray.